Because Vladimir Putin is not a hypocrite. In 2005, in a speech to the, I think it was April 2005, in a speech to the Russian Federal Assembly, he made a speech. It's been misquoted in the West. It's the speech where he famously or infamously, depending on your point of view, said that the greatest disaster of the last century was the collapse of the Soviet Union. Well, he didn't say the greatest. He said one of the greatest. And he's right. He's absolutely fundamentally correct on that. But everybody jumped on and said, Vladimir Putin, all he cares about is resurrecting the Soviet Union. They didn't pay attention to the rest of the statement, the most important part. He said, because overnight, tens of millions of Russians became homeless. One day, people had a home in the Soviet Union. The next day, they became foreigners in a foreign land, oftentimes those are my people. Those are the Russian people, and I must protect them. I must protect them. So what does that mean? It means that Ukraine is part of the Russian nation. I know it's an independent sovereign country, but from the psychology of Russia, Ukraine is part and parcel of the Russian nation. And so Putin is protective of Ukraine. So why in God's name would he seek to destroy Ukraine? Why? Everybody's saying, why didn't you do this? Why did you? And I was one of the guilty ones because I didn't get it when this war first started. I didn't get it. I didn't understand. It's taken me a while to understand Russia's love for Ukraine. In the West, nobody gets it. We are the most ignorant people in the world. We think that Ukraine is somehow separate from it because we've bought into a Banderist ideology of somehow Ukraine being this entity. Now, Western Ukraine might be different. I will accept right up that the people of Western Ukraine do not want to be part of the Russian nation because they're not. They aren't part of the Russian nation. They're an artificiality attached to the Russian nation. And maybe when this is all said and done, the Russian nation should evict them. And I'm not saying kick them out of the territory. I'm saying that territory should not be considered part of the Russian nation. Give it to Poland, make it its own standalone entity. I don't care. Denazify it first. But I accept that Western Ukraine is not part of the Russian nation, but the rest of Ukraine is. So why would Vladimir Putin, who is on the record, remember, this is a serious man. He's not an American politician. He doesn't say things lightly. He doesn't make promises and not deliver. This is a serious man who saved his nation, who saved his country. And in 2005, he was still in the process of saving Russia. So why would he initiate an operation to deal with a threat that's been created not by Ukraine in isolation, but by the United States and NATO using Western Ukrainian Nazis to poison the mind of the rest of Ukraine? Why would he then go in and destroy this? He wouldn't. What was the purpose of the special military operation? You see, when it first started, I, in my simplistic military Marine Corps trained mind, said the purpose must be to close with and destroy your enemy through firepower maneuver. Kill everybody. That's what we do when we go to war. No joking around. You want to fight America? Understand we're coming in. We're not here to help you. We're here to kill you. Surrender, you might get to live. Fight us, we will kill you all. That's our approach. All right. And so I believed that that's the approach Russia would take going into Ukraine. How ignorant was I? How ignorant is anybody who says that was Russia's objective or should have been Russia's objective? How could it possibly have been Russia's objective when the Russian leader has said that I am the protector of the Russian nation? If he's the protector of the Russian nation, why would he then destroy an extension of the Russian nation, which is what Ukraine is? No. What Vladimir Putin wanted, which we still don't get in the West, was to make this conflict as short as possible, inflict as few casualties as possible. He wanted a negotiated end to this conflict. The purpose of the special military operation was to create conditions which would get Ukraine to the negotiating table as quickly as possible to bring this war to a most rapid conclusion, and it almost worked. It almost worked. Everybody says, oh, it failed. The first part, I said it too. Oh, the first part was a failure. No, I'm wrong. And everybody who says it was a failure was wrong. Because within a week of initiating the special military operation, Ukrainian delegations were sitting in Gomel, Belarus, meeting with their Russian counterparts. They had 3 negotiations in early March that led to a potential 4th negotiation in Istanbul on 1 April that would have brought this war to an end the way the Russians wanted it to be. That was the Russian goal and objective all along, to have a very short conflict, to not inflict harm, do not hurt the infrastructure, do not hurt the civilians, don't even kill the military. If they resist, yes, you have to fight, but not to seek to destroy the Ukrainian military. Just to create pressure on the Ukrainian government, get them to the negotiating table, get this war to end in a way that furthered Russia's goals and objectives of a new European security framework. Remember the draft treaties, December 17th, 2021, that were submitted to NATO and the United States. That's what the Russians wanted, not the conquest of Europe, but to live in peaceful coexistence with Europe. And the key to that is to make sure that Ukraine does not become a NATO extension, a NATO proxy, a force of instability, that Ukraine becomes at a minimum a neutral entity. But the best idea would be not to get Ukraine to physically join Russia, but to act as an extension of the Russian nation, which means that Ukrainians and Russians live together in peaceful harmony. That was the goal, that was the objective, and it almost worked, except NATO shot it down. So everybody who's critical of the special military operation, they don't have a clue what they're talking about. They literally are the most ignorant people on the planet.